We like to believe that court decisions made within the United States are determined by a correct interpretation of the Constitution and guided by fair-minded judges and juries. Unfortunately, this is often a mistaken belief. Alarming research into the psychological aspects of courtroom decisions have shown that our personal bias towards other individuals often cloud our judgment. All people have a constitutional right to due process and a fair trial. These small and unrelated factors shouldn't affect a decision that could potentially change one's life forever. Criminal injustice is the infringement often unrecognized in our very own court system today. Case after case reviewed by biased judges and revenge-seeking accusers result in wrongfully denounced convicts, occasionally placing the innocent behind bars and sentencing others to undeserved long and harsh punishments. Imagine serving years, even decades, in prison for a crime you didn't commit. Then when you're finally exonerated and released, you're not guaranteed any form of compensation under the law.
Just how often does our trusted justice system fail? Marty Tankleff, who was 17 at the time, accused of his parents' killings, was wrongfully convicted and sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of 25 years to life in prison. Nearly decades later, Marty was freed in 2007 at the age of 36 after an appeals court found key evidence that was overlooked in his trial. Joseph Abbott was exonerated on September 2, 2009 in Salem, North Carolina, after serving 14 years in prison for crimes he did not commit. Christopher Abernathy spent nearly 30 years in prison for the rape and murder of 15-year-old Christina Hickey. Abernathy, now 48, was freed after DNA evidence cleared him of any connection to the crime. According to a recent study, 1% of people behind bars are wrongfully convicted. The U.S. has approximately 2 million people behind bars. That means with a wrongful conviction rate of 1% would translate to 20,000 people punished for crimes they did not commit. On death row, 1 in 25 are likely innocent. Thousands of wrongfully convicted innocent people spend decades in prison, losing out on their job, their career, their life, and their family. Reports released in September 2016 found that approximately a third of African Americans, but roughly 3/4 of white Americans say police in their communities do an excellent job in using the, quote, appropriate force on suspects, treating all racial and ethnic minorities equally and holding officers accountable when misconduct occurs, end quote. These studies have discovered that African Americans are more than often treated and sentenced differently than any other race. 59% of convicted African Americans are jailed after arraignment for a felony, only 37% released on recognizance, whereas 41% of white Americans are jailed after arraignment for felony and 52% released on recognizance. This news is horrific. What is race playing a role in decisions among the court? Another thing that must be taken into consideration is the life outside of prison and re-entering society. The family suffers because they are unable to see their loved one after failing to reach the required bail amounts for release. Even after an inmate returns home, studies show that they are never the same and families are forced to make adjustments. Besides the family, the inmate has to struggle with a criminal record. More than often, companies do not hire citizens with records because they see them as a liability to the company. And even if they are able to find a place, occasionally inmates are not as educated and not equipped with the capabilities/skills to survive in real-world activities. Is there a solution to this unjust criminal system? A way to prevent race, gender, personal backgrounds, and appearance from interfering with the decisions made by the court and public? According to an article by Jessica Henry on HuffPost, solutions to prevent criminal injustice may be easily obtainable and more straightforward than expected. Return to community policing. If the police personally know the citizens they are tasked to serve, then they get a sense of who lives in the neighborhood, who is dealing drugs, and who is going to school, for example. With this improved insight, police are better able to make informed life and death split-second decisions. Just look at Camden, New Jersey, one of the poorest cities in New Jersey, with a stunning crime problem. The recently formed Camden County Police Force has implemented a new community policing program, and, quote, homicides have dramatically declined, end quote. There's still more to be done, but community policing has had a positive impact. As a society, we are obsessed with the idea that to have corrective justice, the only productive way is to have a criminal in isolation and punish them for their actions. However, new studies have proven that it is actually counterproductive and chances of declination are high due to the lifelong punishment in one form or another that convicts must endure. Support alternatives to arrest and incarceration programs. Too many people end up in the criminal justice system. Many people are arrested who shouldn't be. Once an arrest is made, a cycle of confinement undertakes that is often altered against the poor and people of color. Supporting ambition that offers alternatives to the justice system, such as after-school programs, drug treatment options, and mental health centers, will solve this problem. All of these programs require funding and are costly. In the short term, they create a healthier, safer community in the long run. While the future shows potential for the system to be renewed and repaired, the issue that mass incarceration inherently discriminates against race, personal backgrounds, and appearance has to be recognized by lawmakers in order for them to combat the issue with more dedication. More funding needs to go into repairing the flawed system that theoretically, quote, raises, end quote, the criminals. This system that was created for justice continues to preserve those historical racial inequalities which actually cause injustice. Structural violence against African Americans are present in the United States, and the judicial system will continue to perpetuate it long into the future if it continues to function without the necessary change. Once race, gender, social class, and personal background stop becoming a determinant in the course of one's future, the justice system will be more effective.